Hidden deep in the Carpathian Mountains, a palace rises from the forest like something pulled from a dream. Towers pierce the sky, marble terraces catch the morning light, and somewhere inside, a room decorated by a young Gustav Klimt still glows with color. This is Peleș Castle, the world's first castle fully powered by locally produced electricity. A palace that took over 4 decades to build, drew workers from 14 nations, and became the beating heart of a royal dynasty. Sinaia sits 124 kilometers from Bucharest and 48 kilometers from Brașov, nestled on an ancient route linking Transylvania and Wallachia. The Carpathians crowd close here. The air carries pine resin and altitude. It is the kind of place that makes kings pause. In 1866, a young king, Carpathian of Romania, first rode through this valley and simply fell in love with what he saw. 6 years later, the crown purchased 5 square kilometers of land near the Piatra Arsa River and named it the Royal Estate of Sinaia. On the 22nd of August 1873, the foundation of Peleș Castle was laid. The king had a vision, but turning that vision into stone would prove far harder than anyone expected. The first 3 architectural plans submitted were all rejected. Carpathian found them too derivative, copies of Western European palaces, lacking originality and far too costly. He wanted something new, something that had never been built before. German architect Johannes Schultz finally won the project by presenting a plan that combined Italian elegance with German aesthetics along Renaissance lines. It was original, it was ambitious. The king said yes. Between 300 and 400 men worked the site at any one time. Queen Elizabeth recorded in her journal that workers of at least 14 different nationalities took part: Italians, Romanians, Albanians, Greeks, Germans, Hungarians, Turks, Poles, Czechs, French and English, among others. The sound of the construction site must have been like a small United Nations carved into the mountainside. Progress was not steady. In 1877 and 1878, Romania fought its war of independence against the Ottoman Empire, and construction slowed significantly. A castle was being built even as a nation was being born. By 1883, the castle was ready enough to celebrate. Passengers from Paris on the inaugural journey of the Orient Express to Bucharest were invited to Peleș by Queen Elizabeth herself. King Carol I ceremoniously placed the last brick. On the 7th of October that same year, the royal ball of inauguration was held. But the castle kept growing. Czech architect Karel Lehmann took over additions between 1893 and 1914, designing the towers that now define the skyline. The main central tower climbs to 66 meters, over 200 feet of stone reaching toward the mountain sky. By the time construction finally ended in 1914, the total bill had reached 16 million Romanian lei in gold. The castle had taken 41 years to complete, and the result was unlike anything else on Earth. The style blends Neo-Renaissance and Gothic revival with a Saxon influence that becomes clear the moment you step into the interior courtyard. Allegorical hand-painted murals cover the facades. Ornate timber fachwerk frames every level. It feels simultaneously German, Italian, and entirely Romanian. Inside, the floor plan covers 3,200 square meters. There are over 170 rooms, many decorated around themes drawn from world cultures. 30 bathrooms. 7 Italian neo-Renaissance terrace gardens outside, dotted with statues of Carrara marble, fountains, guarding lions, and marble paths. The Hall of Honor was completed only in 1911. It spreads across 3 floors. Walls of carved European walnut and exotic timbers rise on every side. Alabaster sculptures catch the light. Retractable stained glass panels can open the ceiling to the sky. It is the kind of space that silences a room full of tourists. Within the Hall of Honor hangs the Ancestors Gallery, a collection of paintings commissioned by King Carol V from the Künstler Kompanie, depicting ancestors of the House of Hohenzollern, the past watching the present from every wall. The Grand Armory alone holds 1,600 of the castle's more than 4,000 pieces of weaponry and armor. Among them, a complete Maximilian armor for horse and rider, and a 15th-century German executioner's sword reserved exclusively for nobles. history with an edge. The castle's small theatre is decorated in Louis XIV style, with 60 seats and a royal box. Look closely at the murals and architectural decoration. They were signed by Gustav Klimt and Franz Matsch, painted here before either man became a household name. Room after room pulls you somewhere new. The Florentine room features solid bronze doors cast in Rome and a grand marble fireplace with Michelangelo motifs. The Moorish salon has an indoor marble fountain. The Turkish parlour, once a gentleman's smoking room, is lined with silk brocades from Viennese shops. Oriental rugs from Bukhara, Mosul and Smyrna cover the floors. Porcelain from Sèvres and Meissen fills the cabinets. The imperial suite is believed to have been created as a tribute to Austrian Emperor Franz Joseph I. It is decorated in sumptuous Austrian Baroque in the style of Empress Maria Theresa. And on one wall hangs something extraordinary, a 500-year-old Cordoban tooled leather wall cover, described as the rarest of its quality in existence. The castle drew the world to its doors. Kaiser Franz Joseph XX visited on the 2nd of October, 1896, and later wrote in a letter that he was impressed by the richness of its canvases, old furniture, weapons and curiosities placed with good taste. Queen Elizabeth, who wrote under the pen name Carmen Silva, welcomed artists including George Enescu, Sarah Bernhardt, and Vasile Alexandri. Later, dignitaries including Richard Nixon, Gerald Ford, Muammar al-Gaddafi, and Yasser Arafat walked these halls. In 1893, Carol II of Romania was born within these walls. King Carol I called Peleș the cradle of the dynasty, cradle of the nation. For a brief moment, the castle was not just a palace, it was the origin point of a future king. That future did not last. In 1947, the communist regime forced the abdication of King Michael I and seized all royal property, including the Peleș estate. The castle was declared a museum in 1953. Then, in 1975, Nicolae Ceausescu closed the entire estate entirely, declaring it a state protocol interest area, accessible only to maintenance staff and military personnel. It remained that way until 1990. During the 1980s, hidden from public view, the castle suffered. Some of its timber was infested with Serpula lacrimans, dry rot fungus, quietly consuming wood that had stood for a century. The palace endured, but not without scars. In 2006, the Romanian government announced the restitution of the royal domain to former monarch King Michael I. Negotiations concluded in 2007. The castle is now on lease from the royal family to the Romanian state, a complicated piece between past and present. On the 10th of May 2016, the royal family hosted a reception at Peleș, marking the 150th anniversary of the Romanian royal dynasty. It was the first time since 1947 that a royal standard had flown from the castle's towers. Then, in August 2016, the body of Queen Anne lay in state in the Hall of Honour, attended by two heads of state. And on the 13th of December 2017, King Michael I himself lay in state there before his burial at Curtea de Argeș Cathedral. Today, between 250,000 and almost 500,000 visitors come each year. Guided tours cover the ground floor, the first floor, or all three levels depending on the ticket. The castle opens Wednesday through Sunday, 9 in the morning until 5 in the afternoon, and closes every November for maintenance. Somewhere between 14 nationalities built it. Countless more now come to see what they made. Peleș Castle is many things at once: a royal dream, a builder's marathon, an archive of empires, a scar of dictatorship, and now a place of quiet wonder open to anyone willing to make the journey into the mountains. Stand beneath that 66-meter tower and look up. 41 years of labor, 14 nationalities, one extraordinary vision. It still stands.